with Rico and Kayla is about to go live online. All Out with Rico and Kayla is about to go live online. Catch All Out monster hit music, All Out celebrity interviews, All Out showbiz and sports news, All Out fun, an exclusive on the Monster. Catch the stream on the Monster Facebook page at RX931, the Monster YouTube channel at RX931, and twitch.tv/Monster RX931. Your All Out hosts, Rico Robles and Kayla Rivera. Stand by and enjoy the program.
Hey Monsters, another fantastic Friday. That's what it's all about. And it's always great when we get to talk to an artist who makes great music. And when it comes to Heartbreak in the Making, we want to know this journey. It's very, very interesting. She did have a show before here in the Philippines. So it's great to catch up with her. Joining us from Oslo, Norway, we have the one, the only Dagny. Hi, Dagny.
Hi. How are you?
Great, great, great. You know, how's everything going? It's so sunny there.
I know it's like in the middle of the day. It's only 1 o'clock in the early afternoon. So it's a completely different time zone. Yeah.
I know, thank you for taking time to join us. I mean, the journey for the music and everything, Heartbreak in the Making. I want to know, I mean, there's got to be some signs in this. But first and foremost, how's everything going? I've heard you've had a recent show here in the Philippines. How was that experience?
Yeah, it's not super recent. It was in very late in 2018. But that was my only time ever playing in Manila. And we had such a great time. We did 4 shows with an American band called The Coin. And it was such a surreal experience. We were only there for 73 hours, and it was just like boom, 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 one show after the other. But it really made me want to go back, and I met some fans that I've been following ever since. And so I really I've been dreaming about going back and playing some more shows there.
I mean, I could imagine when you go to a country and it's completely different from where you're from, and to only have 73 hours in the place. I mean, walk us through that. And you had to do what, 4 shows? How was that?
Yeah, and it was a crazy thing because it was just like the same day as I bought my apartment here in Oslo, and I was really high up on a pink cloud, and we were going to Manila, and it was all super surreal. And then I came to the airport and I'd forgotten my passport. And so they didn't want to put me on the flight, obviously. And so my whole band just went, and they left without me, not even knowing if I was going to make it. And luckily, things worked out, and I arrived 10 hours or 12 hours after them, which made me have even less time there, which we got there. And, I'm from a tiny, tiny village in northern Norway. It's 80,000 people. And so it was just crazy, coming to such a big city. And it was outdoors in the evening, and just such a good vibe in general. So, I mean, if it was up to me, I'd stayed for way longer than 73 hours, but I'm glad I even got that.
When you head to the Philippines, for some reason, I don't know if it's the warm weather, but it allows people to stay here longer. They end up sometimes living and buying something off the island, buying a nice rest house and doing so. You did mention you're from a small town. I mean, the journey of music, how did this all start for you?
That's a very good question. Well, I grew up it's a very cultural city. It's a lot of music in Tromsø, which is what it's called. And so I discovered music early, and my parents are jazz musicians. So we kind of grew up having music around the house always. But then I think when I was around 20, I moved to London, which is another amazing city. And there was I just learned so much. I met all these people that were gigging 7 nights a week and writing music every day. And I think that, that really shaped me as an artist, just discovering things about my own sound and how I wanted to sound like, and getting to gig so much and learn how to be in front of an audience and and just general learning a lot about the music industry and meeting other people that were so into music. So I think those years in London were really like they were like really fundamental in my musical journey. But it's incredible how music can like take you all around the world and meeting so many different people, and we have this like one united language that we all get, which is basically music, which is awesome.
And I can imagine the scene that you have in Norway, and of course you head into London as well. I have a couple of friends who do the music scene there. It's like it's so organic, it's so pure, and it's really speaking from the heart. And it's a lot of hard work. It's not just putting on a drum machine. It's not just doing all that. I mean, to actually make it as a career, when was that decision? When did that? It's like I could make a living off of this. When did that come through?
Yeah, I think it's important to say that like that took years and years and years. And I think that, I always say that one of the main reasons why I'm still doing music isn't necessarily, that you got this incredible talent or whatever, but it's just, being persistent, like never giving up is basically, I think, what made me being able to continue. And obviously having like an inner drive that that just, something that drives you, that give your life purpose. I think, being a musician and making a career out of it, it's not even just a job. It feels more like a lifestyle, and it consumes, so much of your time. And like most of my friends and family were all like, music is what kind of our biggest passion. And so, yeah, it took a lot of years, but I guess I just never found anything else that I wanted to do more and that gave me that same feeling. So it was, in that sense, I guess it was a pretty easy choice, even though it took
I,
years.
I mean, your parents being in jazz, of course, jazz, the genre that is probably the hardest.
Yeah,
The bar is very high there when you have music greats that in one jam session, in one song, when somebody drops a certain
I
note, you
know.
gotta pick it all up. I mean, and you're
It's so
making, the
pop
music you
music.
make is completely different. How did they
Yeah.
take it?
I think, I always thought that I was going to wake up one day and just be like, oh, jazz. Yes, jazz is going to be my thing because that's what we grew up with. We didn't have any pop or rock around the house. It was like jazz and bossa nova. But I guess like, the one thing that it all has in common, whatever genre you're doing, is that you're trying to, convey like an emotion and a feeling. And I think that, whatever music you're doing, that's what we're all trying to do. And I guess, seeing my parents when I was growing up doing music, it gave me like a really realistic image of what it is to be a musician. As you said earlier about how much time goes into it, you have the highs and then you have the lows, and you're on a tour and it's amazing, and you come home and suddenly it's all very quiet and you feel really empty. And that's also part of it. And I think, seeing them and how much time they spent on learning their craft and trying and failing and trying again and then succeeding, and it goes back and forth all the time. I think that's really like a lesson that I've taken with me. And whenever I then have a period that feels like everything's going against, I just know that, okay, you just have to continue and keep going at it, and it will all be okay at the end. So yeah, but
Was
pop is very different genre,
it?
but
I
I
can
love it.
imagine. I mean, it's a completely different thing. But of course, when you're making the music, and then there are days that not every day is going to be a yes, not every day is going to be a sold out
Mm.
show. Was there any advice from your parents that they gave you that somehow, like, all right, when this happens, this is what you do? You know what I mean? Was there any important
Yeah.
advice? Can you remember?
I think most of all, just like observing them was a lesson in itself, just like seeing that they never stopped or gave up. But I think they also reminded me always that, because they never tried to push me in a certain direction. It was never like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, go out and be a musician, or go out and do this and that and the other. But I think they really taught me that, music is something that needs to come from just your own passion. It's not about trying to um, you know, you shouldn't just do what everyone else tells you to do, or because music is so individual, like everyone, in a way that everyone connects with different kinds of music. And I make music that I love, and sometimes I've thought, oh, maybe I should make music more like this because that feels like that's the kind of music that everyone listens to. But then I just remember what they said about, like, you have to make music that connects with you, and you have to make choices that you want to make and follow your gut instead of just doing what everyone else tells you is the right thing, if you know what I
That's
mean.
that's so tough. I mean, right? You're like, okay, this is the purest song I've ever written. I
Yeah.
sing it in my bedroom. Now I step on stage to sing it in front of 1,000 strangers that I don't know who. How was that first time performing a song that's dear to you? How was that feeling?
Luckily, I've been doing shows since I picked up the guitar at like
Mhm,
15. Like, I basically knew four chords, and I was
mhm,
like, wrote two songs, and then I was like, okay, right, let's go out and play them. And I think by doing that, I got a lot of those like really tough experiences really early on, which by the time I started releasing music and we're doing bigger shows, I kind of knew how to handle these different situations a bit better. But yeah, I mean, it is like, it's vulnerable, like, in a way. You're putting so much time and effort and emotion and honesty into these songs, and
mhm,
not everyone will connect with it. And sometimes you have really tough shows where
mhm,
you're playing to a crowd that don't want to listen, or something goes wrong on stage. But again, I try and remind myself that that's just part of it. And I don't think anyone who does music and has done it for a long time
mhm.
has gone without any of those experiences.
Yeah,
That's just like,
it's
you
part
learn from
of it.
it, I guess.
Yeah, it's part of the journey. For those that are tuning in, we are talking to Dagny, joining us all the way from Norway. Now, the hit comes in 2016. How was that first feeling when you had that major hit? When you first heard it on the radio? How did
Yeah.
you feel about it? What were you doing? Can you walk us through that?
I can remember exactly what happened because I'd actually decided that I was going to quit music for a little while, just like a
Mhm,
short moment there in 2000, late 2015. I just thought, okay, maybe I should try something else in life. And I was kind of banging my head against the wall, not really getting anywhere.
mhm,
And then as like a last, okay, I'll just put out this EP and see how it goes.
mhm,
And Backbeat, which was my first single, was one of those songs on that EP. And I remember it because it premiered on the radio, and
mhm,
that's long backstory, but it premiered on the radio, and I was sitting in my rehearsal room with my band in London. We were just a group of friends. And I remember the song came on radio, and everyone was like, oh my God, it's on the radio. It's crazy, crazy. And then when it was done, they just jumped straight into the next song.
mhm,
And I remember all of us just sitting there being like, so what now? I guess the song's out. And what do we do now? So we just like basically went back to rehearsing.
uh-huh,
And then I think like people started picking the song up and connecting with it. And
mhm,
it was a surreal thing because at that point I'd already been doing music for 10 years. But
mhm,
and people said, that and everything happened overnight. But in a way, it kind of felt like everything changed overnight because
mhm,
labels started picking up the song, and suddenly we were like flying out to Los Angeles meeting labels and flying out to New York meeting labels, and it was a really surreal time. And looking back, it's not really ever stopped since
mhm.
Backbeat was released, and it's been a really exciting journey. But it's crazy how things changed so quickly after really having done it for that long.
It
So
maybe it was a trial period, and then when you're really about to give up, right?
yeah,
That's when it's like, bam,
it's
backbeat comes
classic.
in. It gets an acclaimed, probably got a few awards for it. Now from Backbeat, I mean, how was it now making a hit after Backbeat? Was it more challenging? Was there a lot more pressure towards, okay, we got to make a hit like Backbeat, or what's the follow
Yeah,
up to it?
I think that's a really good question because in the beginning,
Mhm,
everyone around you is, and also yourself, is just like, okay, right, we have to make another backbeat, like, and so we wrote so many songs that just sounded like a really bad version of backbeats. And then I think I realized, it's not really about making backbeat again, it's about making a new song that is its own song.
Mhm.
And the pressure was definitely there, but and I do think that, you think that you're going to get to a point where you feel really stable and everything is just fine and you're living up the music and the pressure is going to go away. But that never really goes away. But I think the pressure for me mainly comes from within myself. It's not about trying to please, everyone
The
else. But
audience or whatnot, right?
yeah, exactly. But about making songs that inspire me in new ways and
Mhm.
songs that make me feel excited, but that doesn't sound the same as all my old songs, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
So I think the key is, pressure is part of it, but I think the key is just like keep finding things that inspire you in new ways, and don't get too comfortable. Don't try and make the same song again and again, but try and find, new sounds that inspire you, or new ways of talking about something, or keep experimenting, really.
Mhm. Now, when it comes to doing the sound and, of course, making your music, was there ever a sort of comfortable albums that you would run to? For example, if you're in the process of recording an album, do you go sit at home with a Fleetwood Mac CD or maybe a
Yeah.
Nirvana, Nevermind album? What's your go-to albums when it comes to that?
You know what? I have an amazing album
Mhm.
that's do you know the Swedish band Cardigans?
Yes, yes,
You
of
do?
course. My favorite game.
I
Yes.
love the Cardigans, and they have an album called Long Gone Before Daylight.
Mhm.
And it's just one of those albums that I mean, it must have come out in the 90s or maybe
Mhm.
early 2000, but it just never feels old to me, like the
Mhm.
songwriting and the organic feel, like the feeling of the album.
Mhm.
And my music has been very pop, and
Mhm.
I grew up with Spice Girls. I mean, I loved Spice Girls too growing up,
Who
and that's
doesn't?
yeah, exactly. But I feel like with Cardigans, they have this really amazing, like, organic sound, and um and yeah, I feel like it suits so many different moods. And so I would say that's probably one of my favorite albums. And in the last year, when I've been going into the studio, I've been trying to think more organic again, not
Mhm.
just like, not doing digital drums, not just having one producer coming in and play everything, but involving my band. I have an
Mhm.
amazing band, and we play so many shows, and like taking back a bit of those organic elements have felt really inspiring to me in the last year. So I've been listening to that album lots.
I could imagine like you're probably doing long drives and just listening. But like, we gotta get this sort of vibe to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the driving, like the driving vibe, it's the best. Like
Uh,
when you write a song and you imagine like driving down some like coastline while you have the
yeah,
windows open, that's like the
true, true.
ultimate sound.
Now, is this the theme now for the new single? I mean, Heartbreak in the Making. So tell us, what's the story behind the song? I mean, the title itself, I could imagine.
Yeah, I always tell this story. I have to start off by like telling the kind of association. So in 2016, I had a period where I was like, whenever I went out with my
Mhm.
friends, we would always drink tequila. And it was one of those things where you're standing there looking down in the first shot of tequila, and you know how this is gonna end up, and you
Mhm.
know it's probably not a great shout. You probably shouldn't shot it, but then you do it anyway.
Mhm.
Like, the song obviously isn't about tequila, but it's a similar thing where you go into a relationship and you're seeing the warning signs, and you can kind of imagine, you know that this is probably going to end badly, and you can already kind of see the outlines of that, but then you do it anyway just because you're hooked and you really want it to work. That's the heartbreak in the making. You
And
can
and
see it coming.
that's usually the most exciting relationships, right? That you
And
ever
that's the
get into.
thing. I mean, back to the tequila night, it's like you can have an amazing experience and you can learn a lot and it can be really exciting in the moments. But you know, I guess that's life. You know, you have tequila nights and you have relationships like that, and you and you learn a lot. And maybe like down the line, you can look back and laugh of it, or look back and think, oh yeah, okay, I guess I learned a lot at least.
That was a great lesson. That was a great night, but that was a lot of heartbreak lessons there. And remember,
Exactly.
when it comes to tequila, get the one with the bell, not the one with the hat, they say.
Oh, good
Yeah.
one.
You always gotta get the best one. Now, is this gonna be the theme of the whole album that you're gonna be launching? Is this gonna be the theme of the next body of work that you'll be doing?
I've been writing a lot since the last album, Strangers Lovers, and I can definitely see the contours of the album, and it's definitely very much in the making, to use a line that we've listened. You know, it's in the making, but I think it's a little early to say exactly if all. I mean, for me, an album needs to have. I don't think it's going to be purely about heartbreak, but I feel like there's a lot of big emotions in the songs that I've written and I've connected with up until now. And then I'm gonna like let myself have the summer to really like put it into one, you know, one body of work that feels
Mhm.
consistent. But it's I think it's touching on something that, you know, I can relate to. And I think you'll find that like a lot of the songs are touching on that.
Mhm.
But you know, you can't have a shade without any sun, and so there's going to be some songs that are also more focusing on not just the heartbreak, if you know what I mean.
It's some happiness somehow.
Yeah, some happiness
You
too.
know, I
Yeah,
mean, I could imagine, but then I mean that could be very challenging now, right? To write one body of work because with all the musical trends and also with everything that you want to talk about, there's so much information out there. In a snap of
yeah.
a finger, you want to be able to capture it. How do you stay focused on that?
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, up until my first album, Strangers Lovers, which was 3 years ago, I'd only ever done like singles. And singles is one thing because you can release something and you don't necessarily have to tell a bigger story. You don't have to like make all the visuals align, and you can kind of just move to the next. Uh, but then I did the album and it felt so satisfying to be going into, you know, putting all that work into making a bigger story that you are able to tell much more in depth. I always say that like releasing one and one song is like the first date or just dating,
Mhm.
and then, you know, an album is like full on the relationship in depth.
Mhm.
And so I think for me it was so satisfying to be working like that and challenging, and I like
Mhm.
challenging. So when I think about an album, I like the challenge of like making it all feel like one, you know, that they're working together. But it's definitely not easy, and like God, the amount of hours that goes into making an album is insane. But
Uh,
then it feels really good when you
when it's
put it
out
out.
there.
Yeah.
Now, when's the album coming out for you? Is there a release date already? Also, I know you're gonna go on tour for this. Is there a world tour? Are you gonna be back in Manila soon?
I would absolutely love to come back.
Mhm.
I mean, definitely. Someone would say, "You want to go to Manila?" I'd be like, "Yes, I'll go tomorrow." But the there's not like we're working on some dates, but for now it's mainly like European dates, and the album is going to be out in the autumn sometime. That's all I can say for now. But
Mhm.
I'm doing my biggest headline show in Norway in end of November, which is going to be the biggest show I've done to date. So I think I can say that if everything goes according to plan, it's definitely going to be out before that.
And message for your fans. You got a lot of fans here in the Philippines. For them and for all the listeners of your music, Dagny. What's your message for them?
I would just say thank you so much for listening to my music. And I feel like overall, the people are that I'm seeing on my socials and I'm talking to on my socials, and it's just such a great vibe. Like this, people keep it really positive, and I love reading everything that they're writing about my music, and I feel like it really is like one big amazing community. And even though we haven't been able to go on that many like world tours, like just don't give up, because we'll be coming your way at one point, and I can't wait to see everyone again, and in Manila and everywhere else. So just thank you for supporting and for listening to my music, and it means the world to me, and it's really nice to feel like connected to other people through the music. So thank you.
Of course, the single is Heartbreak in the Making. If you have any tips on heartbroken people, you want to share some? Just
Oh gosh, I don't know if I have any great tips, but I would just say that, sometimes just allowing things to take time, and however much time it takes, just like, um, I think time does heal all wounds, but sometimes it takes a minute, and that's okay. And you just have to try and do things that you enjoy doing, and being around people that make you feel good. And at the end of the day, as I said, horrible to be in when you're in it. I think most of the time you're able to look back later and see that, something good came out of it, and you did grow and you learned something, and maybe next time you'll handle it slightly differently and stuff. And that's life. Like, that's growing and learning all the time. So I guess just remember that it will be okay in the end.
Dagny, you nailed it right in the head.
Thank you.
So real. Thank you very much for taking time, for sharing with us your afternoon or lunchtime. And hopefully next time we have you live here in the studios. Okay.
That would be amazing. That's a deal. I'll shake your
Yeah.
hand on that for
All
sure.
right, here you go.
Very
Virtual
nice to
shake.
yeah.
Until then, we'll catch you again. All right. Thank you for taking time. Don't forget Heartbreak in the Making. Request for it here on the Monster. Joining us from Oslo, Norway. Give it up for Dagny.
Thank
Okay,
you. Thank you so much for the
let's say
nice
goodbye.
chat.
Thank you very much. All right. You take
Thank
care.
you. You
All right.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, Dagny joining us all the way from Norway. My name is Rico Robles. This has been another Monster exclusive interview. Thank you guys for watching.
Monster exclusive interview. Monster exclusive interview. Only from Manila's hottest. Monster RX93.1.